G'day, I'm Michelle Vowitz and this is my PowerSeries Beginner Bass Lessons on the Metronome. Now, one of the most important jobs of a bass player is to be able to play with a steady rhythm or steady pulse in your playing. And one of the most important tools you can use to achieve this is to use a metronome. Dun-dun-dun! Now, a metronome is a mechanical device or electronic device which keeps a steady click in its playing, and it also has a variable speed which is registered in beats per minute or BPM for short. Now, this particular one is of course a mechanical device, and let's demonstrate how this works. We've got a shaft here which goes back and forward, and we have a shaft which has a variable weight on the top of it which then controls the speed. So up, high, slow, down there is fast. Now, as well as that, on this particular model, we also have a slider on the side. You see the slider here, which goes back in and out, and you can register either a even number of beats, so that there is no indication of the one, or you can have a different tick or top or bell every second beat or third beat or fourth beat or every 6 beats. So let's demonstrate that, how that works. So if we're going to say play something in 4/4 time, I'll bring this out to the 4th setting. Okay, so let's have a listen to that. 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. So you can hear it's got a different chime for every first beat of each bar. Now, the reason why we use this instrument is to get a better understanding of how the brain works. Generally speaking, if we try and do a passage which is easy, your natural inclination is to speed up. If we encounter a passage which is difficult to play, we naturally slow down. And this is all very good in the real world, but when you're playing music, it ain't very cool. So let's have a look at an example to explain how we're going to use the metronome. We're going to have a look at exercise 3 from lesson 2B, and we're going to set the metronome mark to 112 BPM, and we're going to set the bar count to 4. So I've already done that, so let's get straight into this piece. Now, one of the problems can be when you're changing from one position to another, you can lose a little bit of time in there. So let's just go through that particular exercise. 4. Change. So that was in right time, but quite often when you change from one position to another, you can actually lose a little bit of time. So, and then there. So the idea is to, if you're having trouble maintaining the time, is to cycle those two different sections where you're having trouble changing time. So let's have a look at that. 3, 4. So cycle just between those two different positions until you can get them nice and even without losing any time. If you're having trouble, of course, bring the speed down about 10%. So 10% of 112 is around about 100, or bring it down even to 95 if you're having trouble even at 100. Always bring it down to the lowest speed where you can maintain that satisfactorily. Okay, so the second example that we're going to have a look at is the same piece but a modified version, which is exercise 3B in lesson 3B. And we're going to add the skip notes to this one as set out in the lesson. So it's that's the revised riff. Now usually when you add a few extra notes, like that, little skip notes, that's when you tend to slow down. So and that's a matter of cycling that until you get that really nice and smooth. So let's have a look at that one. 3, 4. Now in that section there where you've got the skip notes there, again, that's generally where people tend to slow down. So it's a matter of just practicing it until you can keep up comfortably with the metronome. Okay, so metronomes are very, very powerful tools for checking on your progress on a particular piece. One of the problems that a lot of people have with a metronome is that it can be very frustrating. But believe me, it's worth sticking with. Now, let's just review a couple of the concepts that we had in this lesson. And the first one, which is the metronome mark, or MM for short, and that's measured in beats per minute, and or BPM for short. Second one is, if you're having trouble with a particular piece, slow it down, about 10% or 15% depending on your abilities, and then gradually increase it about 5 BPM every 2 or 3 days until you get it up to speed. Okay, this is Michelle Voets on the Land of Oz. We're riffing out.